Boom, shakalaka boom. You're tuned in to the free-range human show of choice, your daily dose of reality radio. It starts right now. This is the Clay Edwards Show. I'm, of course, Clay Edwards, streaming worldwide and live on the Save JXN digital platforms at Facebook, X, YouTube, and Rumble this morning. If you're streaming on any of those platforms, go ahead and hit that share button real quick. Just pull up that little phone or device or computer or whatever, click where it says share and go boom, shakalaka. At least hit the like button to say good morning. Also, of course, the mothership, the real reason we're all here, 103.9 FM WYAB, from our little, we call it a little First Amendment free speech outpost here in Flora, Mississippi, pumping all across central Mississippi every morning, 7 to 9 a.m. That's what Mike Madison called this place. He goes, our little First Amendment outpost. But that was birthed during the 2020 era, the COVID era, when you weren't allowed to say a lot of things on the radio, when our other conservative talk radio competition stations, whatever you want to call it in the market, where their hosts were doing ads for the COVID vaccine. It's just so hard to fathom that. It's so hard to fathom that a guy over there in the morning times right now was doing COVID vaccine ads, was getting paid to promote poison and not the band. Very sad situation there as I think about it. But hey, as life goes, welcome into the Clay Edwards Show this morning here on WYAB. Glad to have everybody. I'll have a guest here in the studio in a little bit, Miss Angela Buckner with Mike Magazine. Angela's one of our dedicated listeners, and she's very plugged in, great journalist, independent journalist, and those are some of my favorite kind because they don't have those golden handcuffs that tell them what they can and can't talk about, what they can and can't cover. Miss Angela goes all in and covers all the tough stories, and she calls balls and strikes down both sides, black, white, conservative, Democrat. She covers good stuff, and she's become one of my favorite people to follow. She covers the kind of stories that I find interesting. It reminds me of exactly why I got into doing this 4, 5, 6 years ago. I didn't feel like there was boots on ground people covering the things that I wanted to be covered in more than a 30-second blurb on the news. That's not an attack on the people on the news. They got a business model. It is what it is. We use a lot of their content. I mean, hey, they pay their reporters to go out and get these stories, and I use them. So, it is what it is. But there's a lot of stuff that they don't discuss, or they don't discuss it in the details that I want it discussed in. So that's what we do here. Looks like we've already got a phone call this morning on the Mazda of Jackson phone line. Let's see if they're still there. Hey, good morning. You're on the air.
Good morning, everybody. So, yes. Clay, I just wanted to reinforce something you just said about what made y'all popular. What you said is exactly why I switched from them to y'all. Is I got sick and tired of them preaching to me about getting that, I can't say what I wanted to, that vaccine.
Yeah. Man, I remember, I'm glad you called and said this because this hit me last week. Somebody was trash talking me, sent an email, said that they were so unhappy with one of my shows, they were going to switch over and listen to them. I'm like, yeah, that's fine. But it reminded me, it said that I remember that guy that is, and I don't want to say the name, it is what it is, but I specifically remember when he was a sports guy, he was running a PSA or a paid ad or whatever. Let me just throw that out there. It could have been a PSA. He could just be that passionate about the COVID vaccine. He thought everybody should get it. Maybe it wasn't a paid ad. So maybe it was just a public service announcement, one or the other. Either way, it was disgusting given what we know about that vaccine and given what the overwhelming majority of what I would think that their listeners felt about that vaccine, that they would promote that to people. But hey, to each their own. It is a free country to do whatever you want, and I chose to turn the dial and never turn it back. Now I do like Gerard over there, and I've been very clear about that. I'm a fan of Gerard Gilbert personally. You know, and when I want real economic type stuff, I do listen to Gerard, and you know, I've been to Gerard's house, been to parties over there. Just I do, because I don't know that he considers me a friend, but I do have a lot of respect for Gerard Gibbert. And if he ran for governor today, I'd probably vote for him. But he was also not over there, to the best of my knowledge, doing COVID vaccine PSAs.
Yeah, it was just the fact every 5 minutes it was push that on people, and I got tired of it. Now, the person who wants to ding you, I don't always 100% agree with you. I don't always 100% agree with Jameson. I probably agree with Kim more often than y'all, but there was a few times. But that doesn't make me stop listening, because unless you're running the show yourself, you're not going to 100% agree with everybody. So,
hey, look, man,
I'm not going to ding you for something I disagree with you on.
Hey, look, and you know, and I respect the hell out of that, and I appreciate that. And when I meet people out in the public, and they're like, "Man, I agree with you all the time." I'm like, "No, you don't. You really don't. You may find what I'm saying something funny, but there's no way you agree with me all the time, and that's not healthy to agree with somebody all the time anyway." I said, "Hell, I get through doing this show some days, and I disagree with something I said, but in the moment, you know, you're kind of fleshing things out in live time." And when you get done, you're like, I don't know. I'd like to rethink that. I'd like a redo on that thought. And that is the beauty of doing this 5 days a week, 2 hours a day, is that the next day I do get to come in and change my mind on things sometimes, and that's life. You know, but I never lie. You know, people tell me I tell lies. I'm like, I don't lie. I've never got on here and lied about anything. Now, I have been wrong about things, but there's a difference in being wrong and lying. You know.
Yeah. I understand, but the whole point is people listen. Everybody listen to me. If you disagree, call in. Don't be hateful. Be respectful. Say, this is why I disagree with you. And that's how a discussion goes back and forth.
Absolutely. So, and look, and I love it, man. That's why I always answer the phone when people call. You know, and I'm not going to get into a shout match of people anymore. We went through that with other callers in the past. You don't accomplish anything. I want to hear what you got to say. Keep the language clean. And you're welcome to call into this show anytime you want and have a conversation. Tell me I'm wrong. Explain to me why you think I'm wrong, and we'll discuss it. You know. And you've been one of my favorite callers over the years. You know.
For whatever reason, people get angry and they just want to yell, scream, and this is my point, and you're an idiot. Blah blah. No, don't do that. Just go back and forth, explain your point, and listen to their point, and you might be surprised. So. You
know, one of the biggest.
All right. Well, I'll let you.
Appreciate it, brother. You know, I'll say it after I hang up. Thank you, man. Have a blessed day. Yeah, one of my favorite callers there. People, and this is why me and Sean had such good chemistry, and why so many people enjoyed listening to us. I don't know if you don't even know if you want to call it debate, but we just agreed to disagree, and we didn't go into it trying to change each other's minds. Like, I'm not going to try to change your mind. I think that's a problem on the internet, and it's a problem in modern conflict resolution, is if you don't change somebody's mind, you feel like you lost. You don't have to change somebody's mind in the moment. You give them the information to reevaluate their stance, and maybe they'll change their mind over time. There's things that I've changed my mind over. Pretty big things. I know there's things, and I'll use Sean as an example. I know there's things that he's changed his mind over time. Maybe we've all got our what we call our core values. You're probably not going to change those things, but that's fine. But the little minutia, the little things here and there, some things aren't my hill to die on anymore. I think you grow out of some battles too. I'm not saying that I'm still not passionate about them. But I believe some battles you kind of age out of. It's like, you know, this doesn't necessarily directly affect me anymore. Let me move to this thing that does. But it doesn't mean that I'm still not passionate about this, but that's somebody else's fight now. And one of those things, and this is going to upset people, one of those things is the abortion battle. That doesn't necessarily affect me anymore. That's not saying I'm not passionate about it. It's not saying that I'm not still pro-life. I'm just saying, you know, it's not my hill to die on right now. Now, if it comes back around and they try to put it on and it ends up on a ballot, if we ever get our ballot initiative back and they put it on a ballot, will I get fired back up about it and start getting on here and fighting? Absolutely. Absolutely. But until then, it's not a drum that I feel like I need to beat on here. Election theft. That's just not something I'm as passionate about as I was 4 years ago. Maybe it's because we won this time. I don't know, but it's not something I personally feel the need to get on here and beat the drum about every day. Is it still a very important topic? Absolutely, it's a very important topic. And I think we have guys here on this radio station that do a phenomenal job talking about election. Maybe election integrity is the better word for that. Do I believe that there were shenanigans in 2020? Absolutely. But I also am a believer in God allows things to happen for a certain reason. And I think that hindsight's 2020, what happened, pun intended, what happened in 2020 has set us up for the great American comeback. I don't think we would be in as good of a position as we're in right now for Trump or for whoever the president would be if we had gone through 2 consecutive terms of Trump. Here's what I think would have happened. If we had gotten 2 consecutive terms of Trump, Mike Pence would have got his butt whooped by Kamala Harris or whomever. That's the other thing. I don't think we would have had, it wouldn't have been Kamala Harris. You maybe would have had a decent, air quotes in the studio, decent Democrat candidate like a Josh Shapiro or somebody of that nature running. You wouldn't have had a Joe Biden. You wouldn't have had a Kamala Harris running in 2024. So who knows? Either way, I don't think Mike Pence would have won in 2024. And I think he would have been the candidate, in my opinion. Again, I think he probably would have been the candidate. But I don't know, man. There were some strong horses running in that undercard. We knew it was going to be Trump. But there were some horses running up under. But let's just pretend for the sake of this conversation, without getting too crazy into the what ifs, Mike Pence would have lost and we'd be going into a 4 to 8 year run with a Democrat, because that's just the way it's worked traditionally in my lifetime, other than going from Reagan to Bush, who was a one-term president. Since then, it's kind of been this back and forth. So 8 years, 4 years, 4 years, so on and so forth. But so you had, Clinton for 8 years after Bush. You had you had Bush for 8 years after Clinton. You had Obama for 8 years. Then you had Trump for 4, Biden for 4. Now you're getting Trump for 4. So Democrat, Republican, Democrat, Republican. So just looking at that trend, we would be going into most likely going into a 4 to 8 year run with a Democrat in charge. And frankly, how effective would Trump's second term have been if you look at the way the first term ended? And I don't even mean just the election chaos of all of it, but with 2020, COVID, just everything that was going on, we were going to have some of the things that happened under Biden happen regardless of who was president, with inflation, some inflation stuff and all that. Now the border wouldn't be in the situation it's in. The country wouldn't be in as bad of a situation as it's in, but the future wouldn't be as bright. I think that's what I'm trying to say. So long story short, man, I went around the world to say that. But I think sometimes you got to vet it out right. I think that right now we're set up because people got to taste what 4 years of progressive Democrat policies, unhinged progressive Democrat policies looked like. And the overwhelming majority of America decided, I'm not here for that. I'm not here for that. I'm not gonna shut up because a black woman's speaking. I'm not down with this trans stuff. I'm not going to do any of that we were told that we had to be down with, that we were told we had to do. So I think people have seen where that leads us. And I'll take the mean tweets. I'll take the mean tweets. All right. We do have a guest coming up. She's running a little behind this morning. So when Miss Angela Buckner gets here, we'll get her plugged in. When we come back, I want to jump into the story from WLBT. It looks like, of course, the story that was reported first here on the Clay Edwards Show. Again, we never get credit. But you guys know. The listeners know. There's a story that was first reported here last week. We even had the caller, not last week, was it Monday? What's today, Wednesday? Yeah, so Monday, story that was first reported here about the Ridgeland Police Department incident that went viral over the weekend, where a guy got pulled over and then he released some snippets of the video, yada, yada, yada. He called into the show and told his side of the story. We happen to be listening. We appreciate that. WLBT has got a response from Ridgeland on this. What are they saying over there at the Ridgeland Police Department? We're going to play that video, discuss it, and more. When we come back, this is the Clay Edwards Show on 103.9 FM, WYAB. Welcome back in to the Clay Edwards Show here live on WYAB. This segment is going to be brought to you by our good friends over at the Manship Restaurant, one of Mississippi's finest dining establishments, in my humble opinion, right there on North State Street, across the street from Baptist Hospital. We've got a little update here. And, well, first and foremost, tune in this Friday. For the first time ever, we're going to have the owner of the Manship, an old buddy of mine, Mr. Stephen O'Neill, is going to be here in the studio. And we're going to talk about a lot of stuff. Stephen has kind of been drug into the Jackson mayoral drama a little bit. I want to give him an opportunity to talk about that. I think he's been unfairly attacked by a couple rabble-rousers here in the community, and the mayor, for that matter. So I want to give Stephen a chance to air out his side of all that on one of the largest platforms in the state, and definitely one of the largest here in the city, the Clay Edwards Show and WYAB. But all that aside, that really has nothing to do with the Manship, in my opinion. That's just a business owner that I think being attacked by the mayor is absolutely asinine. So I want to make sure we give him a platform to defend himself. But again, all that aside, the Manship Restaurant has been named the 67th out of 125 of the top whiskey bars in America. Guys, what a massive accomplishment that is for somewhere in anywhere in Mississippi. But in Jackson, nonetheless, this out of 125 of the top whiskey bars in America, right here on North State Street, the Manship is the 67th, and I dare to say the number one in the state of Mississippi. So to celebrate, they're offering a rotating daily, weekly whiskey specials, discounted 50% off on their top tier brands. Also, they got some brunch items, avocado toast, breakfast burrito, an ultimate plate, which is their version of an all-star. They got lunch and dinner specials, new seafood pasta, seafood spinach dip, bourbon glazed chicken wings. Can we stop the show right now and go get some bourbon glazed chicken wings? My goodness, those sound phenomenal, and I ain't just saying that. They really do. Also, they have bourbon vinaigrette salad, and along with their fresh daily specials. Guys, tell you, they got a blue plate special for $15 over there. I don't get to tell you what it is because it changes every day. It's based on what's available fresh market, and they throw it together, and boom, you have a fresh daily special. So it's not a fixed deal like every Tuesday's not meatloaf, which I have no problem with that. I like to be able to work my lunch schedule around places that do that. But if you want a little surprise, you want to eat at what I would say is going to end up becoming a Michelin-rated restaurant once Michelin gets through doing their ratings here in Mississippi, because they're finally here. I would be shocked if the Manship doesn't make that list. You want to go eat at what I think will be a Michelin-rated restaurant for lunch for under $20. Go eat at the Manship for lunch today. All right, here in the studio, you see her on the cameras there. You always see her up in our comment section. She's called the show before. She's been on the show before. She's called the show often. We had a little video and a story that we kind of worked on together somewhat go viral over the weekend and over the week. Ms. Angela was there broadcasting live at the Black Panther rally there in downtown Brandon. Was that Friday, Angela?
It was, trying to get set up here. It was it Friday? It was a court, Friday.
Friday.
It was Friday. But it wasn't a Black Panther rally, though.
It was Black Panthers, and they were rallying, so it looked like a rally. I mean, semantics, but it was they were doing their thing. Pull that mic up on you there, if you don't mind. But we're going to circle back to that. But I did tell you guys that I wanted to discuss this viral video from the Ridgeland Police, and Ridgeland Police Chief Brian Myers has responded. Give me just a second to get this queued up because I want to hear what he has to say. This is a story that we were first to cover here, and which I find so funny because, you guys, you haters, y'all love to tag me and all this stuff all the time, but you never acknowledge when we cover it. But when we're the first to cover something, right, we never get the credit for that, which I don't do this for the credit, but I just find it hypocritical of the overwhelming majority of y'all to constantly accuse me of not covering stories that happen outside of Jackson, when not only do we cover them, we break them. But, neither here nor there. I just don't cover it in the way y'all like. Y'all just don't like my opinion on it because I tend to lean in favor of the police first and then let y'all prove them wrong. Because 99% of the time, and I said this on the show the other day, if we were both betting $1,000 or whatever the number is, and I took the cops every time, and you took the guy claiming the cops did them wrong, then once the story shakes out, I'd be winning and y'all'd be losing. And y'all just don't like that, and that's okay. I'll continue to rub it in your face when I'm right and you're wrong. Let's listen to the story here from WLBT. Good morning, Miss Angela.
Good morning.
New at 10, Ridgeland's police chief responding tonight after his department received criticism on social media.
Yes, due to a body cam video showing a shouting match between an officer and a man he pulled over. 3 News Side's Nathan Lee joins us after speaking with Chief Brian Myers.
Well, Howard and Maggie, Frederick Gaddis was the man pulled over for a traffic stop March 16th on South Pear Orchard Road. And what started as a simple stop for an expired license plate quickly turned into much more. Now, 3 on Your Side has obtained the body cam video from the entire traffic stop.
There's been a video that has come to light that highly edited and also clipped and also taken out of some of it was switched around. Regardless, there were some statements made by law enforcement that I think should not have been made.
On March 16th, Frederick Gaddis was stopped on South Pear Orchard Road in Ridgeland for an expired license plate. But what would happen next has now gone semi-viral on Facebook. During Your Side, obtained body cam video of the entire 30-minute stop from both officers, and we'll walk you through what took place. Once stopped, the first officer walked to the car and asked Gaddis to roll down the window 3 times due to its tint, but Gaddis did not respond.
Can you roll his back window down for me?
Then when the officer asked him to get out of the car, he did. Once told why he was pulled over, Gaddis then showed officers his legal tag inside of his car. Officers then asked Gaddis for his license and proof of insurance. He provided his license on his phone, but not his insurance. After that, Gaddis willingly gave up his firearms on him and in his car. After that, the conversation takes a complete turn, causing one officer to be criticized for his language.
Yes, your tin is legal.
Okay, then write the ticket.
But if it's legal. That's what I'm telling you. Mouth, you would understand that.
See what I'm saying?
He wants to be lock his
And later on,
I'm on every way I can.
Now, Chief Myers says they are conducting an investigation to determine discipline for the officers.
There will be action in regards to our officers here. As I said at the beginning of this, we police our own. We make sure that everybody's behaving and acting professionally.
Now, Chief Myers did not go into detail about what the discipline could be and said they handle these situations in-house. We also want to point out that we have been trying and will continue to try and get in contact with Frederick Gaddis to get his side of the story. Nathan Lee, 3 on Your Side.
All right, so we got that there. Again, it goes back to the editing and the selective clips that I have the problem with. Mm-hmm. And he obviously got the video from, I'm guessing through a Freedom of Information Act request. FOIA request. People have heard those before. He obviously got it through a FOIA request, and he put it up there in snips and clips and all that. And I think that's unfair to do that, and it helps paint a narrative. Maybe you're trying to paint a narrative, clearly. I mean, he called in here. He laid out his story. I thought he did a really good job of let me rephrase. I thought he was very honest in the story and what he said. Now, obviously, he's got a different angle here. But to each their own. Look, I don't know. The cops go through so much. And like I said, I'm quick to defend them. The language and stuff, it's taxing. I mean, you sit there and you're getting chewed out. You're arguing with people who just won't, just damn comply. I mean, the dude would have got back in his car. This could have been a 5-minute traffic stop about window tint and a tag, but it just had to escalate. And it just had to escalate. And that's what we see these things constantly. It's like, dude, your tint's illegal and you don't have the tag. Eat the L and go on about your business.
Well, I think he was telling them that it was legal. And he was like, write the ticket. He said, no, if you listen to me, I'm trying to tell you that your tent is legal.
Yeah.
And he just kept popping off. And I'm told that there's a thing called pop, where you piss off a police officer.
Yeah.
And then they begin to just stack offenses against you or whatever it may be. But I believe fear shows up in so many different ways, Clay. And I can't speak for a black man or man, period. But just listening to that, and that was one thing I wanted to say to you. I'm so glad that you allowed that brother an opportunity to come on your show and speak, okay?
Sure.
Because, a lot of people might try to beat you up and say, oh, Clay Edwards this and he's that, but you allowed him an opportunity to call in. And as a black woman, I want to say thank you, because a lot of people just want to be heard. And that's his side of the story, and he was allowed to say his side. Now, we do have body cam footage that says something, that probably wasn't favorable for him, but you gave him that chance to say that, and you were the one to break the story.
Yeah, thank you for that. What I've learned, and I learned this from Kim Wade, when I first got into this, he gave me a little bit of advice. Is like when somebody calls in that you disagree with or whatever, just let them talk.
Yes.
Just let them talk. You don't try to argue with them. Let them talk, and they'll either make their side of the story, or they'll talk themselves into circles, and they'll prove your point for them. And that's not the case I was making with this, but it was the whole let them talk, and then let them tell their side of the story.
Now what?
And then it's not up to me to change the listeners' minds or to tell the listeners what they need to think. That's not what I do. And people get mad at me that I don't argue with people like that sometimes, but it's not what I'm here to do. You make your mind up. You hear from that what you want to hear. I'm not going to try to point you in a direction.
Absolutely.
You know how I feel about it. I'll tell you how I feel about it. I will give you my opinion. And unlike a lot of hosts on other stations or people on the news, they won't give you their opinion. They just tell you the news, and that's fine too if that's what you choose to do. But you're going to know if I report a story, you're going to know how I feel about it.
Hey, I got some commentary to go along with this. You know?
I mean, that's what we do here. We do news commentary.
Exactly.
So.
And I think that's what we appreciate about the Clay Edwards show. We might not agree, Clay. We don't agree about everything.
Sure.
But I love to hear what you have to say, and I respect that. And like you said, I don't come to convert anybody. I listen. I want to know why you are doing what you're doing. I'm not here to try to change your mind as a person who's viewing what we're talking about. I'm putting it out there, putting the facts out there, and letting you decide. I didn't come to convert you and change your mind and make you follow who I am and what I'm doing. But we follow because there's a little bit of toxicity in this thing.
People like that.
They do.
People like a little incendiary. They like toxicity. They like having. They like to have their beliefs pushed a little bit. I do. I like to have my beliefs challenged, because what it does is it makes me question if I'm right, or it affirms my beliefs even more. We got to take a break. When we come back, I want to pick back up on what you said, the fear, because that's something I talk about a lot, and I think it's a great time to run that back about what the media has done to create fear between black men and police on these traffic stops that drives confrontations and situations like this, and they could potentially, something as simple as that could have turned deadly because of fear being ratcheted up due to the media pushing this narrative. We got Miss Angela Buckner with the Mike Magazine here in the studio. You know who I am. This is the Clay Edwards Show. We will be right back here online and on WYAB. Welcome back in to the Clay Edwards Show here on WYAB, streaming worldwide, WYAB.com, as well as the TuneIn app and Alexa. Just search WYAB. Alexa, play the Clay Edwards Show. Streaming worldwide also in stunning HD on Facebook, X, YouTube, and Rumble at SaveJX. In this segment brought to you by our friends over at Mazda of Jackson, sponsors of the Mazda of Jackson phone line. Something tells me it'll be lit up here after this segment. That number is 601-879-0002. Lock that in, save it in your phone, and feel free to call this show anytime you want. But hey, look, the weather is heating up, and so are the deals at Mazda of Jackson. Right now, at Mazda of Jackson, you can drive home your dream Mazda with low financing rates available. Guys, these are really, really legitimately good rates, great rates even. Unheard of right now, considering how high prime rates are. If you walked in to just buy a vehicle off the street, like, good luck. 2.9% for 72 months on most models, or if you finance for 36 months and can need a little higher payment, you can get that rate down to 0.9. Guys, that's incredible. That's unheard of right now. Experience Mazda's award-winning design, exhilaration, performance, cutting-edge technology, top-notch safety, and reliability. It's time to choose Mazda. Shop online at MazdaofJackson.com or visit Mazda of Jackson in person, I-55 Frontage Road in Jackson. And look, don't forget, all new Mazdas at Mazda of Jackson, or from Mazda of Jackson, come with a lifetime powertrain warranty. MazdaofJackson.com. Give a shout out to my buddy Grady Portera over there. Tell Grady Clay said hello if you go by Mazda Jackson. All right, Miss Angela Buckner here in the studio. Angela, I want to circle back, and you brought up a great clip that we're going to play for folks. Circle back, and I've been saying this for a while, talking about black men on traffic stops. Mm-hmm. And I've heard a million different reasons for this, and I've heard that, Clay, you don't know what it's like. Parents have to have a conversation with their black sons about getting traffic stops. Like, we have that same conversation in white households. I don't know why black folks think that that's an exclusive conversation in their house. I had to have that conversation with my parents. Have had to have it with me. Mm-hmm. I've had my ass whooped on a traffic stop, and I've had to have that conversation with my children. And that is not an exclusive conversation. And we've had this whole conversation on the show before. No sense in completely rehashing it. But I blame 90% of this on the national media and social media, because you know how social media is. Mm-hmm. It shows you what you want to see. Mm-hmm. It shows you more of what you watch. That's the way these algorithms work. Mm-hmm. Is if you watch 2 or 3 videos that show cops beating somebody's butt on a traffic stop, guess what that's going to do? It's going to show you more videos of cops beating people's butts on traffic stops. Mm-hmm. And you're going to be convinced that that's all that happens. Mm-hmm. Just like my news feed shows me a lot, and I'm just going to say it, of black people behaving badly. Mm-hmm. You know, that's what it thinks I want to see. Mm-hmm. So in my Instagram, my YouTube, my Facebook, my X, whatever, that's what it shows me, because those are the kind of stories that we seem to report on more around here because of what happens in Jackson. I was like, oh, well, he clearly likes it. No, I don't like it. But it's what I get shoved because it's what we report on. Anyway, I digress. Back to the traffic stops. The media is brainwashing people and telling them that cops want to kill black men on traffic stops. The statistics don't back that up. Nothing factual backs that up. But you take these stories, you isolate them, you magnify them, and it makes you believe that is all that happens. And I think what it's done is it's ratcheted up tension and anxiety on these traffic stops. And black men get pulled over, and we'll just use Rankin County, for example. There's this myth that black people get mistreated on traffic stops in Rankin County. Black guy gets pulled over. He's automatically, anxiety ratchets up. The cop's there. He's acting very, very standoffish and high anxiety. What does that do? The cop's anxiety ratchets up. And there's no sense in just going back and forth about how this escalates, but it can escalate into a bad situation. And somebody feels like fight or flight. They have a panic attack. They just say to hell with it. They take off. A pursuit happens, and then who knows what the heck unfolds after that.
Clay, I totally agree with you. Now, when news went to 24 hours, I was like, now how can you find news 24 hours a day? You call it brainwashing. You used it with you. Here we go with semantics. I call it programming. Okay, and we have been programmed. Can you imagine if this is showing up as fear in this man. Imagine what the officer is feeling. Now, he can't tell you that he's in some state of fear because he's in authority. And so he's supposed to be seen as a person who has it under control. But we've seen in the video earlier, where the chief fell on the sword and said, hey, we're going to have to take this. We're going to have to, do something about the language or whatever, what happened. But when you're out on these stops, I can only imagine. And my husband even talked about how some of the women are looking inappropriate, but that's a story for a different day. But the fear of it, the media I agree with you, has done a swell job of pitting blacks against whites in stops like that. Now, just imagine the movies, the music, all of the other things that have been pumped into our community, black community now, not you guys, because everybody love music, but our community in particular, let's get it on. We got a whole bunch of babies. We got a whole bunch of single women running around. We got a whole bunch of people now crying about Section 8 is probably going to be taken away from them because of the new administration. This is a lot of stuff that the media has done to pump all of this fear. They've done a great job. I like to call it a campaign. They've been working on us on the black side of town forever. And now it is bleeding over generation after generation after generation. But what do you do to make it right? You got to go and do another campaign. But who has that type of money to dump into saying, hey, black men don't hate white men don't hate black men? Who's got that type of money? They're not trying to spin that narrative. And the algorithm is going to show you whatever it is that they think you are interested in.
That's it. And the word interest is a little misleading there.
Seemingly
not
interested
on your
in.
end, but yeah,
seemingly.
Like just because I say that my algorithm shows me things that it thinks I like, it doesn't mean I like them. I find interest in watching stuff, or because I report on stories like this, or people send me stuff, it automatically assumes that's all I want to watch. I mean, like, I'm spending less and less time on like X and these other platforms now than I ever, or looking at other people's feeds. I kind of post my stuff and I look at my stuff and my reactions. I'm not looking at a whole lot of other stuff online. I do spend a lot of time on YouTube, but that's more like long form, podcast style content. I'm not really going and watching these short form videos of this type stuff because it will fry your brain.
Yes.
It truly will. Look,
I had to detox from this stuff, man. I'm telling you.
Look, we got to take another break. We ran over. Y'all know how we do it. The last segment is always a short one. We got to take this break. At the top of the second hour, we got a video here of a black preacher that is under fire for saying that it's the black youth's fault for getting themselves killed on these traffic stops by police, and the black community is not happy with him. And I think I want to tie all this into this Carmelo Anthony story and this celebration of him getting out of jail and this celebration of his parents buying an $800,000 mansion with the funds raised for his criminal defense. I just want to get into all that, unpack it with Miss Angela here. I also want to talk about the Black Panther protest, we'll call it that, in Brandon last Friday and their reaction. They're upset with both of us, I believe. I know they're upset with me for calling them paid agitators.
Well, it wasn't, Clay, it was not a Black Panther rally, even though we saw the Huey P. Newton Gun Club out front and center, but All
right, we'll be right back. We got to take this break real quick. 30 seconds or so here. No, we're already back in the commercial, so we will just talk to the online audience for a second here. Guys, when we come back from this top of the hour break here, like I said, I ran over big time there. When we come back from this top of the hour break, we got this video we're going to play for you guys. I can't play it for y'all now. I got to play it for the radio audience too, of a preacher by the name of, what is his name? Philip Anthony Mitchell. He's under fire. An Atlanta area preacher for calling a spade and saying that black youth are the ones getting themselves killed by police on these traffic stops. And other black preachers are trying to use it against him to stop the bleeding of their congregations over to his church because he was growing at leaps and bounds. So we want to unpack that and more. Y'all don't go anywhere. Enjoy the top of the hour news, CBS News. People seem to hate it. Gets them fired up. Who don't want to get pissed off in the mornings? We got Miss Angela Buckner here. with us. You may recognize her. She's usually in the comment section with you guys, and she does some great reporting on her own. We're glad to have her here in studio this morning. This is her second trip to the show, to the studio, should I say. And we're going to light it up this morning. We got a whole another hour to go. Y'all don't go anywhere. Hit that share button. This is the Clay Edwards Show. Boom, shakalaka boom. We're back. It's hour 2, the most incendiary show on the RADIO. This is the Clay Edwards Show. I'm, of course, Clay Edwards. We got Miss Angela Buckner with the Mike Magazine here in the studio.
Hey.
With us this morning. This segment going to be brought to you by our friends over at Men's Health of Mississippi. Not just Men's Health, but the New Care Clinic also. Guys need to lose some weight. Women need to lose some weight. Can't afford name brand Ozempic. They've still got the compounded semaglutide. They got the special formula that has not been outlawed. That's right. You can still get the compounded semaglutide from them. So many other places aren't able to still carry it because they were doing a different formula, the way I understand it. Not Men's Health of Mississippi and New Care. If you'll text weight loss, that's right, just text weight loss. Now, I'm pulling up a different number. I'm pulling up a different thing on the screen here, but I got to get the phone number. Same phone number, though. If you need men and women, text weight loss. 1 word, 2 words, so any version of the word weight loss, any spelling, it should work, to 601-327-8550. 601-327-8550. You will get an appointment and go get a consultation to see if you are a candidate for compounded Ozempic. Well, it's compounded semaglutide. It's basically generic Ozempic, and it is a fraction of the price of regular Ozempic. Also, fellas, you need some testosterone. You thought I was going to quit talking about it? Wrong. You need it now more than ever. You still got time to get your testosterone levels up for the summer. If you're suffering from any of these symptoms, you could be suffering from low T, fatigue, decreased muscle tone, lack of energy, low libido, brain fog, sleep disturbances, or you blame other people for all your problems. Okay, that's not part of it. I made that up, but that's definitely low T behavior, not taking any accountability. 601-327-8550. Text my name, Clay, for a free testosterone screening today from Men's Health of Mississippi, located out there at 120 Fountains Boulevard in Madison, Mississippi. All right, Miss Angela, let's jump into this video here. Okay. You were telling me about. This is
Philip Anthony Mitchell, Pastor Philip Anthony Mitchell has come under fire.
Yeah, set this up. Tell people what's going on while I get it set up here.
Okay, so my husband and I were riding along and found out that one of our favorite ministers, who has been recommended to us by our minister, our pastor, has come under fire for holding parents accountable. Now, he has a diversified congregation, but he said, hey, you know, you need to teach your children how to act. And this is not his first time actually saying this. And he's trying to get you to get your children home. Don't have court on the side of the road.
Amen.
Listen, and I've heard that from law enforcement. You will have your day in court, right? But this guy is pretty much saying what I just said. Let's take a listen.
Well, that's the whole point about that other video we were watching from Ridgeland. Like, you can't have court on the side of the road. All right, this is a clip from the Young Turks, Indisputable, talking about this. And it's going to go straight into his. I haven't had a chance to vet this yet, so I'm going to have my finger on the trigger over here. But I think we'll be okay.
Yeah.
A black pastor blames black people for being killed by the police. Here it is.
Stop blaming white cops for the killing of black kids. Instead, teach your black children to be obedient towards authority. And I don't care if most of y'all are black. You need to teach your children to obey authority. We need to teach our sons and daughters to obey authority. We need to teach our children to not fight against authority, not fight against cops, not rebel. Be model citizens. Stop being rebellious towards authority. Be submitted to laws and ordinances. Watch. The Lord said, give back to Caesar what belongs to him. That is, be submitted to governmental authority. You know why you're looking at me like that? Because you don't read. And an Italian cop drove right by me. And I locked eyes with the cop, and we stared at each other, and he drove by. And in that moment, I hear the voice of my mom and my father. Son, obey authority. In that moment, with that Glock pressed to my head, I got to make a decision. Either my ego is going to be strong, God, or my submission to authority is going to be stronger than my ego.
That's strong.
And you got to hear what the guy had to say about it.
It should be coming up right after this.
Preacher, I got some commentary and words for you. Hopefully a little bit of advice. I'm very thankful, along with many black folk, including yourself, that rose.
Now, what's this guy's name?
Dr. Rashad Richey.
All right, and he's a member of the Young Turks. They're a big YouTube channel. Right.
Parks did not listen to men like you, because you would have had to, according to you, respect the laws and the ordinances that said black folk could not sit where they wanted to sit on the bus that they were paying for. They could not sit in a restaurant where they chose to nor own it, even though they funded it. They were being taxed for it. There's a level of accountability for law enforcement to treat you with the common decency and respect that you have as a citizen of this nation. Once again, very thankful that leaders like Dr. King did not listen to men like you, or Malcolm X, or those allies who are down with us in the community never listened to men like you. That's why your church isn't listening to men like you. Put them up full mass. Pastor Philip Anthony Mitchell implies that black kids get shot because they're not respecting authority. The pastor of one of Atlanta's fastest growing churches, that is going to stop now. The pastor of one of Atlanta's fastest growing churches, is under fire for a sermon on Sunday, urging his congregants to, quote, be submittal to government authority, end quote. Philip Anthony Mitchell, who leads the 2819 church, said that includes respecting law enforcement and telling parents to stop blaming white cops for killing black kids. All right. So Mitchell related a story from his own youth when he was walking through the Hollis neighborhood in his native Queens. He said he came face to face with an Italian cop who, Mitchell said, held a Glock to his head and dared his younger self to, quote, say something. In that moment, he says, I heard the voice of my mom and my father. He said, son, obey authority. Son, respect your elders. Son, don't be in trouble out there with the police. And I could hear them, blah, 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 end quote. Another quote. In that moment, with the Glock pressed to my head, I thought, quote, either my ego is going to be strong or my submission to authority is going to be stronger than my ego, end quote. Mitchell continued, quote, and if I had not been taught to obey authority, and because I'm not saved, I'm separated from God for all eternity by a cop's bullet. In his call, quote, to render unto Caesar the things that are Caesar's, Mitchell admonished everyone from tax cheats to able-bodied drivers who park in handicapped spaces, be model citizens, stop being rebellious toward authority. He then summarized, dear brother, first of all, I assume you read the Bible since you're a Christian preacher. And you made a comment that was interesting, that you would be forever separated from God for all eternity by a cop's bullet. But the same scripture that you read says to be absent with the body is to be present with the Lord. I'm just talking about the book you read. The other dynamic that's interesting to me is that your scripture says you should seek justice. Sounds like to me that Italian cop was doing something illegal, was being hyper aggressive, escalating a situation to a young black male that could have got your head blown off. Now, maybe he didn't blow your head off, but the fact that you don't advocate for police reform and accountability, you leave that cop open to blow somebody else's head off in the future. And I'd rather take the stance of escalating the illegality of what that cop was doing, rather than assuming that black folk are illegal in everything they're doing when they are encountering cops. As a matter of fact, this country, you are innocent unless proven guilty. So by the statute of law, don't you like laws, preacher? Under the statute of law, every black person who was killed by a cop was actually innocent because no judicial authority had proven them guilty. You like laws. Mitchell.
All right, we're going. I think we got enough. We got the gist of his brainwashing there. Miss Angela, so let me get the screen cleared up here real quick. Just get this little bubble off. All right, real quick here. I'm so mentally exhausted, like I believe most folks of my ilk are, of constantly hearkening back to the civil rights era to justify bad behavior today. What Dr. King and others were fighting for in the 1960s are not what is going on today. In my, I dare say, not just my opinion, just clear fact. Obeying a police officer on a traffic stop when you are breaking the law, potentially, we all have to do that. Why does that have to do with Martin Luther King and the stuff that they were doing in the 1960s? We all have to obey on traffic stops. This is just common damn sense. I got into a pissing battle, so to say, or it could have turned into that, with a Brandon cop a few years ago. I've told this story. I was parked in a parking place at a gas station. Wasn't a parking place, but it wasn't a fire zone. I just pulled up to the entrance. My wife at the time went in the store. A cop came up, parked behind me, just like I was parked, and not one told me I parked like an a-hole. I was like, all right, well, I'm fixing to leave. I was like, my stepdaughter was in the back seat. I was just like, man, I want to escalate this because I felt like it was really, really unnecessary. We're on private property, but it doesn't matter how I park. I'm not in a handicap. Mind your own business. But I said, more so than anything, what I want to do is go home today. I don't want to go to jail or worse today. Nobody likes, as a man, nobody likes being emasculated by another man. But every now and then, you just have to understand that, unfortunately, that's the situation. And if you don't like it, I don't know what to tell you. You deal with the fallout from it, but that still doesn't make it right to break the law on a traffic stop. I mean, at the end of the day. I don't know. I don't want to hear about this 1960s civil rights stuff. That ain't the fight anymore. You're setting yourselves back. You're refusing to grow and be a part of modern society when you constantly harken back to the civil rights era. We can appreciate what they did, and folks wouldn't be where they're at now without them. But that's not the fight anymore.
Well, even Angela Davis, I was listening yesterday, and I'm named after her. Even Angela Davis, I'm paraphrasing, made the comment that, they didn't get it right. Even back then, they made some historical mistakes that were necessary. You had people going to jail. You had people hurt. It was a lot of stuff happening, but they were successful at what they wanted to achieve. But again, today, assuming that black people are always victims is not the case. We are not always victims. And a lot of the stuff that is being inflicted on us is coming from black on black. I see it every day. We won't even support each other. But if it's a white person and a black person, you're expected as a black person to jump on the bandwagon. You're expected now on my side of the tracks to jump on the bandwagon and say, this is your opinion. They're going to give you an opinion and you better take it. And it's not right. Again, we're not always victims. Are some of the people being targeted? Possibly. And again, it goes back to what you said in the last segment, how the media has made it their business, to campaign and push the narrative and fear. Right. But getting back to Philip Anthony Mitchell, everybody is entitled to their opinion, just like the brother who was just talking. But it makes me wonder if, because the ministry is growing so fast, that he was given a script, you know what I'm saying, to go by and target this guy, because this is not Philip Anthony Mitchell. Anthony Mitchell's first time saying something.
It sounded like he was reading a script. I mean, it sounded very unnatural.
And it didn't sound sincere.
That's what
to
I'm
me.
It didn't sound
sincere. You know
sincere.
what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Like, and because he made the comment, which this is what got my ears going. He said, the fastest growing ministry, and then he said something about, well, that'll stop.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I caught that.
Yes. And so that's what I mean when I say, as Black people, we are given a script. As a Black woman journalist, I have to expect to go along with whatever is going on. No. That's not what I went to school for. That's not what they taught me. And you don't even have to go to school to know that you tell this side, you get that side. That's common sense, right? Good common sense. But a lot of people are not operating therein. I'm told that I'm not a part of the Black movement or whatever because I only talk about what I see or what I've observed. Now, when we tag team last Friday, right, and I asked all of the questions Barbara Walters probably would have asked, right, or Gail.
I thought you did a great job when you were interviewing those folks.
Thank you, because
and you knew what you were talking about. You had the names. You knew you mentioned the Huey P. Newton Gun Club.
Yes,
I mean stuff
factual stuff.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
You did a great job.
Thank you, Clay. But I'm told that, you know, if you're not down with the cause, whatever the cause may be at the moment, then you're against Black people and that you're being paid or bought out or you can be told what to do by somebody white. Clay, we don't always agree.
You know, and that has been the biggest hit that the Democrat Party is taking right now, period, not just on the Black side, the Democrat Party, period. If you ain't 100% down all the time of whatever the narrative and the agenda is that comes down from the top, if you waver one bit, like, I'm okay with everything, but I mean, should men be playing women's sports? You're out of here.
Yeah.
I mean, and you watched what happened, and you watched how MAGA grew and how Trump did better with minorities than he's ever done, and how some of the biggest people in the conservative sphere, podcast sphere, manosphere, whatever they want to call it, your Joe Rogans of the world, your Tim Pools of the world, these are all disinfected Democrats that have come over to the other side because they got cast out because they didn't go along to get along all the time,
and Clay,
100% of the time.
And the thing about it, Clay, when I think about the Joe Rogans and the Clay Edwards and the Philip Anthony Mitchells, you're not allowed to be masculine anymore. You're not allowed to say, well, I think that's whatever the terms that you were going over with Chip the other day, right? And those phrases that you were using. You're not allowed to be a man. We want the way that the media has pushed this narrative.
Calling stuff gay and retarded.
Yeah, stuff like that.
You're not allowed to joke anymore.
You're not allowed to tell a manly kind of joke. You know, and in the barbershop, this is how the men talk. How do I know? Because I used to sit around and talk with them.
We got to take a break. In the Black and the white barbershop. That's how men talk.
Wow.
You know, Donald Trump called it locker room talk. When
banter.
Grab her by the, you know, that whole thing. Sorry, people. That's how men talk.
But it's not accepted anymore.
When folks ain't around. We may get it popular again. We'll be right back with Miss Angela Buckner here on the Clay Edwards Show. I think we're having one of our best shows ever today. Look really excited about this one. We'll be right back.
Yeah, man, it's not popular.
Hey, welcome back in to the Clay Edwards Show here with Miss Angela Buckner with the Mike Magazine. Guys, a quick announcement. We are going to do an extra segment after the radio show goes off, so be sure that you tune into the live stream at the top of the 9 o'clock hour. Today is Wednesday. There's nobody else coming in after me. It's Mike Madison's show that's recorded off-site. So with that said, we're going to stay live and do an extra online segment where we review and discuss your comments, your text, and whatnot. The Guns and Gear text line, I haven't mentioned it today, is 769-241-1944, 769-291-1944. Speaking of Guns and Gear, they are open today. Get over there. Check them out for all of your gun and ammo needs, all of your gear. It's got it in the title, Guns in Gear. They got all your supplies as well, all your accessories right out there. I went over there and bought a couple concealed holsters the other day. I bought a dash magnet for my gun as well. They got everything you could possibly need, a wide selection of knives, and, of course, they have guns, new and used. They've got a brand-new Facebook page up. Search Guns and Gear Gluckstadt, Mississippi, as well as their brand-new website, gunsandgear.co. Gunsandgear.co. All right, let's get back to it here with Miss Angela. Miss Angela, let me flip my notes back over here. We were talking during the break, kind of dovetailing off what we were saying there. Mm-hmm. And I made a little note here, and we were talking about the attack on masculinity and why we need to be able to have these tough conversations, and men need to be allowed to be men.
Yes.
At the end of the day, we need to be allowed to be men. We don't need to shut up because a woman's talking. We can listen. I'm not saying don't listen to women, but don't tell me to shut up because I'm not allowed to have an opinion anymore because I'm a man or because I'm a white man and my opinion shouldn't matter. Even if I live somewhere that's predominantly black, my opinion shouldn't matter. None of that should matter. And one of the things I thought about was all the cuck weak men in media that aren't like Joe Rogan and Clay Edwards and Kim Wade and Jameson Hager and all this, so on and so forth. Start naming people, you leave somebody out, people get offended. Men who have stood there and took the knives, took the bullets, took the attacks to remain being men. And there's so many others who bent the knee along the way for their fame and for their shows and for their platforms. For various reasons. And you saw so many of them, they come out and they attacked the Cuomo brothers. What was it, Chris Cuomo that was on CNN? He was all anti-Trump and he was all pro-vax, and now, of course, he got fired, and now he's come out and he's a masculine man and he's a free thinker and all these things. We're all supposed to just forgive him for what he did over at CNN, and I'm a forgiving person, and I do forgive him, and at least he's coming out and telling the truth now, but that doesn't mean we can't hold you to account for the things you did. I am held to account for the things I do and say on this show every day. But with all that said, you have so many who have kissed the ring, and they come out and they're mad that you get to be masculine and you grew your platform and you came up from the mud
in an organic way.
Or they're mad that you didn't take the vax, but they did. They did their part. Damn it! Why don't you take the vaccine? They don't believe in the vaccine, but they bent the knee and they took it because they were told that they had to, and now they're upset that you didn't. And there's so many of them. I believe that was one of the biggest things with the vaccine is it was mainly people felt like, I did my part. Why didn't you do your part? We told you that it would stop the spread. Well, you lied.
Again, media. The media will put these people or pit them against each other and say, well, if you got a mask on or you don't have one, you need to get the people were fighting. I mean, it was mayhem in the United States, you know. And men should be able to say, hey, I'm not going to take it, and be okay, and we should accept it. That's your opinion. I'm not here to make a man think like a woman. I don't want a man to think like a woman. We shouldn't. But anyways, anybody on the call line? No, look, phone line, Mazda Jackson phone line, 601-879-0002. If anybody wants to chime in, drop your 2 cents into this conversation. We would love to hear from you this morning, 601-879-0002. Going back to stop blaming white cops. I think that was, he said what he said. And for those who accepted it, they accepted it. And others, they're going to leave. We got a call here on the Mazda Jackson phone line. Hey, good morning. You're on the air.
Others, they're going to leave.
Hello? Well, they hung up. Call back, 601-879-0002. Be ready to get on the air. I mean, I got my finger on the button. You know, first call goes live. We no producer here screening calls. You coming straight to Clay when you call this show. So be ready. That was somebody with a very interesting name. Would have liked to have heard from you. And going back to that clip, because it was so interesting. Now, the guy who said, I'm going to give my commentary, Dr. Rashad Richey, I don't doubt that he could possibly be friends with some of the prominent ministers in that Atlanta area. And, you know, for whatever reason, they are going after this brother because he said, listen, this is how you should train your children. In the black community, you can't tell a black woman what to do, especially if she's single.
And we're going to raise our children the way we want to raise them. But then don't whoop my baby. But your baby is 45 years old. Don't, your baby is being locked up. Your baby is breaking in. Your baby's throwing rocks. It starts early. The uncles, you won't let the uncles help you with them. You won't let the men in your life help you with your children.
Yeah, because, there's that myth and some of it's real, some of it's not, but there's this overblown urban legend, myth, whatever you want to call it, this assumption that all black men just want to be absent fathers.
Mm-hmm. And that's not true.
And I don't believe that. I believe a lot of that is being blocked out of their children's lives by these women who don't want them in, or
but
I'm a strong,
beneficial.
Independent woman, that's beneficial.
It's beneficial.
I don't think there's just this thing where black men say, notch you up, I'm out.
Mm-hmm.
I don't believe that.
Mm-hmm.
And, that's something else that I think is a myth that's perpetrated out in the media, but they're never going to try to make the black woman look bad. Let's take a call here on the Mazda Jackson phone line. Hey, brother, you on there?
Hey, what's going on, Clay?
Hey.
Oh, yeah, well, proud black father right here, but that goes without being said. What Philip Anthony Mitchell said was, spot on. But, I have a love-hate relationship with this conversation or with the topic, because there are, when somebody loses their life to a police officer, and then we find out the story, and like you said the other day, 9 out of 10 or 8 out of 10 times, the person was a bad person. But
or they instigated it anyway. It was their actions that got them killed. It wasn't the cop pulling over like it was open season on random black men. That's kind of what I was trying to say.
Yeah, but my thing is that with policing in America is that the smallest interactions are turned into big interactions. And that is the only problem that I have with policing in America. It's just they don't have any, ways to de-escalate situations. Police officers don't sometimes. And I watch a channel on YouTube called Lackluster, and where people audit police officers. And a lot of the time, police officers themselves sometimes don't understand the law. And it's very disconcerting, but it's just, I don't understand where we come to the point in America. It's just police officers have so much power over a situation, but don't de-escalate a lot of the time.
Could I make the argument that a lot of this is because we're running really good cops off by expecting them to be psychiatrists, law enforcement experts, legal social workers, jiu-jitsu expert. They're supposed to be all these great things into one person for $25,000 a year. And by the way, if you slip up at all, you're going to prison.
Oh, don't get me wrong. The bar for police officers is set really low. You can become a police officer with little to no training,
but the expectation is through the roof of what they should be of what they should be able to do and what their skill level should be.
And they're supposed to be a noble position.
Well, but the expectation is the expectation. But if you're getting bad candidates, then that's where you should focus your. That's where it starts at. If you have a bad candidate, expectations are the expectations.
Well, you can't measure hard on a job application or a resume. It's kind of what I'm getting at. Maybe it's. It's the heart of the man.
Can.
Do what?
You certainly can. You could. There are bars set for every job application. You could. Require certain a degree. You can require a lot of things.
Yeah, well, when you do that, when you start requiring degrees, you got to start paying for more to reflect those degrees. Yeah, we're saying the same thing here. Pay these folks more, and you get better candidates.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, certainly. And it's just when you have a gun, you walk around. The job, obviously, you get a firearm, and of course, they need firearms because they're going against bad people. But in the instance where they're not going against bad people, I don't know if police officers know how to identify who's a bad person and who's not a bad person. It's just they go in with, and rightly so, hey, I'm trying to make it home to my family at night. And any situation that I go into, a split second can happen, and I'm dead. Like, we've all seen the, I got a little breakup on my end.
No, you're good. You're good. Look, we've all seen these things escalate. Hey, bro, I got to take my break. Well, I'm already 6 minutes over. Great call. Thank you so much. Other callers, stay on hold. We'll be right back. It was Angela Buckner, Mike Magazine. This is the Clay Edwards Show.
That all goes back to the media.
Show. Let's go straight to the Mazda Jackson phone line. Whenever somebody's willing to sit on hold through the break, we'll go straight to them. Hey, you're on there.
Good morning, Clay and Angela. How's everyone?
Hey, Sylvia. How are you?
Good morning.
I'm well, thank you. I wrote down my stuff so I would stay on task, on point, I guess I should say. Number one, I agree with the pastor. Although I do believe he should have emphasized more on what Scripture says in Romans 13, 1-5. I'd encourage people to read that because it does talk about submitting to authority, and it does talk about if you're doing the right thing, you don't need to be fearful. My next point was I wanted to say that the average civilian usually can set the tone of a traffic stop. If you come off with an attitude and act a complete idiot, that causes the officer, in my opinion, to go to the next level. Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. Here's, get your license, all those things. I go through a lot of roadblocks because of my job, and I just show respect to the officer, and the officer is respectful to me. And many civilians at times choose to not comply. Complying is a very good idea. Then the next thing I wanted to say is that Richey, who is speaking, he's an agitator. And yes, a Christian, when they close their eyes to this life, they are absent from the body and present with the Lord. However, the pastor's point had nothing to do with that truth. And Richey took that truth out of context and used it and applied it in the wrong way. The next thing I wanted to say is that I believe that the average officer has a desire to protect and serve the community.
Agreed.
These people should be paid more money. However, and they are trained well. I have a lot of friends who are police officers, and the first thing that I pray for them when they go on duty and shift is that the training kicks in immediately and that they are making wise choices using discernment. Folks, these men and women have said, I am willing to go to a bullet for you. And I always say, I thank them for being willing to go to a bullet for this old maid senior. I need their protection. I also tell them and believe with all of my heart that they have said, those men and women, I am willing to do whatever it takes legally to protect, especially this old maid senior. Now, I appreciate and greatly respect Chief Myers, and he's going to handle that officer and the things that took place in that. And the rest of you folks need to calm down. That man was wrong. He could not even articulate himself the other day when he called Clay's show, and he was very cryptic in his estimation of what was going on. All he had to do was comply. And his behavior escalated the whole situation. And as Miss Angela said, you don't, and you too, Clay, you don't do trial on the road. There are procedures. There's you go to the police station, file a complaint if something has gone wrong and you felt that you weren't treated the way you're supposed to be treated. And they investigate. I'm tired of people bashing law enforcement. Those men and women are doing the best they can, and I thank them for what they do.
Thank you, Miss Sylvia. Great call.
All righty. Talk to you later. Y'all have a good day.
You too, Miss Sylvia.
Bye-bye. Angela?
She said a mouthful.
She did, and I haven't criticized the guy that called in because I did appreciate him calling, but he was all over the place. Spoke very cryptically about stuff, bounced around, spoke about other incidents. You know, tried to explain a history of not a history of violence, so to say, but a history of harassment with the police and this, that, and the other. Versus staying focused on that incident. But I will give him credit. He took blame for the situation. He really did, but then he tried to pass the buck a little bit too. I don't know.
That was his side of the story.
It was. And I appreciated it. Like, it was one of those two wrongs don't make a right thing. But
and again, the chief fell on the sword and said, "We're going to take care of this." You know, the verbiage wasn't something that is expected of an officer, but. You know, he did talk about a warrant that had been served over and over and over, or something to that magnitude.
Yeah, oh yeah, that's right. The bench warrant or whatever.
So he felt harassed.
The contempt of court,
in my opinion.
Sure. So we'll see how that shakes out. And I did get an update too. He didn't get that through a FOIA request. He got that through his lawyer.
Okay.
That video. So there's an update there. I want to circle back to one other thing before we take our last break here about the Italian cop from the Anthony. What's the guy's name?
Philip Anthony Mitchel.
Philip Anthony Mitchell. He, the Italian cop and the guy criticizing him for obeying. Well, the two wrongs don't make a right. That was kind of what I was getting at there. And he was saying that, well, he should have disobeyed. No, he shouldn't have. He could have got killed. Like, two wrongs don't make a right. Also, I think that's all I got. I just wanted to circle back to that because I thought that was worth mentioning. I mean, that brother was basically that brother's gibberish is going to get people killed. The guy that was criticizing the commentator, you know, basically telling people to disobey cops. You're going to get people killed, telling them to do that, and whether you think that's what they should do or not, I'm telling you. It ain't going to play out for him.
This brother is an attorney, if I'm not mistaken. And you'd think he'd say, call your parents, get your parents on the phone, let them fight for you, let them call an attorney or do it the right way. Don't have court on the side of the road. That's what I was expecting. Now, I want to say something that Miss Sylvia said. Respect these officers. They're willing to take a bullet. You see what I'm saying? Even if they're afraid, they still have to show a courageous face, have to be brave in the face of adversity. And it'll be a sad day if all of them just quit law enforcement.
Oh, man, look, I tell you, you think it's bad with them, try it without them. We got to take our last break. We're going into overtime at the top of the hour, so y'all be sure to watch us online. We'll be right back to land the plane for the radio audience on the Clay Edwards Show. All right, online audience, y'all don't go anywhere. When we come back, we're staying with y'all for up to another hour. It's going to be our last break that we take with you guys, so y'all don't go anywhere. We're going to dive into the comments and pull them on the screen and make you guys a big part of the show. Welcome back in to the Clay Edwards Show. As we land the plane here with Miss Angela Buckner, we had a good time here on the radio. We're about to go to overtime on the live stream, so tune in to the Save JXN Facebook, YouTube, X, or Rumble. You may have to search Clay Edwards Show on Rumble there, but it's at Save JXN on the others. I'll be back here tomorrow. Coming up next on WYAB, it is the Mike Madison Show, followed by Jameson Haygood, then Sean and Lindsay, and, of course, Kim Wade from 4 to 6. See you tomorrow. Peace. Give that just a second.
Mm-hmm. Anybody on the phone line?
No, we can't take calls, unfortunately. All right, we are good. We are live on the internet only. Here, let me pull the chats up on the screen and take this overlay off so we can see all the chats. All right, online audience, you guys are now a part of the show. Appreciate y'all tuning in. The numbers have been growing as we go here, so let's circle back and check out some of these comments. We're just going to start at the bottom and go a little out of order because I don't mind bouncing around a little bit. Julian on YouTube says, what Miss Sylvia said is something that should be taught in our school system from middle school to graduation. Mm-hmm. So with that, I want to bring up what me and you were talking about off air, and that was, a while back I suggested that if it's such a pandemic or epidemic of black kids, black men getting killed on traffic stops, young black men, why don't we get into schools and teach how to get out of a traffic stop alive, how to de-escalate, how not to escalate a traffic stop into something that doesn't have to be. Why don't we bring in law enforcement, or if for whatever reason law enforcement can't do it for insurance reasons or whatever, bring in retired law enforcement. I don't think it has to be active police doing this, and work through the little things that are most likely to escalate a situation, how to avoid those things, and let's bring it into the urban areas where high black population areas or whatever where these seem to be. Where you tell me these are problems, or just do it in all schools. They don't have to just be, like JPS or anything like that, for example. But if that's where you're telling me the problems are at, let's focus on where the problems are at. But either way, let's get in there and start teaching kids how to get out of traffic stops alive, because they're not going to start policing a different way. We can give that up. Those methods have worked for them for a long time. They're not going to change the way they police to satisfy somebody that wants to escalate a situation. And let me rephrase that. They actually have changed a lot of what they do. They're being way more patient now than I think they ever have been, because they understand what's going on. Well, at least where they have good leadership.
Well, I do know that with each lawsuit that there is police reform, all these major lawsuits, if you will, where something drastic has happened. So as it relates to changing, yes, they go back to the drawing board and they do look at a better way of approaching it. And I think these classes that they're supposed to attend, these continuing education training and everything is important and is necessary. And I agree with you when you say we should